Christmas on Times Radio.
Welcome back. Let's have a little bit more Brexit ahead of Parliament's recall tomorrow. Labour leader Keir Starmer is facing a revolt amongst some of his MPs over his decision to back Boris Johnson's EU trade deal. Former Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell and ex-Cabinet Minister Ben Bradshaw are now amongst the signatories to a statement calling on the opposition parties not to support the rotten agreement, in their words. One Labour MP said she won't vote for the agreement is Rupa Huq, the MP for Central, Ealing and Acton, and she joins us now. Good morning, Rupa.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining us. So you've decided how you're going to vote. It's not for the deal. You're abstaining or voting against it?
I'm going to abstain because I feel that no deal is a really horrible prospect. And the Labour Party gets criticised a lot nowadays for abstaining on different things, coronavirus regulations. But in this case, it actually makes perfect sense because I don't want no deal. And if you're going to vote against the deal, by default, you're agreeing to no deal. It's not like what we've had up to now that the status quo remains because we are leaving at the end of the week. Well, in fact, we've left the EU already and we're leaving the transition period. So, you know, the alternative is horrible, but at the same time, I don't want to endorse this particular deal. So sort of abstaining is the effect of nodding it through, but without having your fingerprints too closely on it.
What would you say to those who say that's just a complete cop-out? You either like the deal, in which case you'll vote for it, or you don't like the deal, or even leaving the EU, which I suspect might be behind some of your motivation, and therefore you don't vote for it. Abstaining just simply says you try not to offend people.
Well, the practical effect of it is this deal will pass. The Conservatives have a majority of 80. This is not like the Theresa May Parliament where every vote, Gloria will remember, was a nail-biter and it kind of made a difference, every single person. Theresa May was having people round to number 10, Labour MPs as well, to talk them round. I ended up there for half an hour at one stage. So the deal will pass, but I just don't want to sort of indicate that I consent to this deal particularly because I think it's got a lot of things wrong with it. It's not the deal Labour would have negotiated. It's not the deal Theresa May would have negotiated either. So, I mean, I represent a very Remain constituency. I won it from the Conservatives with a narrow majority of 200 odd the first time. The second two times, I massively bolstered that, but on the assurance that I would fight for Remain. A lot of Conservative people came over to my column. They wanted to save their financial passporting, people who work in the city. They said they've never voted Labour before. They were backing me as the Remainer on the ballot paper. Where's that in this 1,254 pages? That's not protected. So it's not the deal my constituents would have wanted. But, of course, a deal is better than nothing because it will cushion the blow. We're not going to have tariffs. So it's a sort of midway position. I don't see it as a... one of your previous people on the show said everything is binary nowadays, whereas it doesn't have to be.
It was me who called it a cop-out, but you've just put up an argument why it isn't. So it sounds like you're listening to your constituents. Have you had many emails or messages about which way they want you to vote tomorrow?
Yeah, I have. Look, even as I've been talking to you, Tom, emails pinging up on all my devices, people wanting me to vote against the deal. So in some respects, an abstention is a kind of compromise for them anyway. And as someone who's had a very marginal seat, I do look at my electorate. They're my employers, not Boris Johnson.
And they're telling you to vote against the deal in what sort of percentage?
I mean,
overwhelming numbers? Again,
it's a slower inbox than usual because it is still the holiday season. But I can tell you 917, 908, 903, they're all things... They're slightly different, actually. I think they're not mass-produced ones this time. Some people are quoting... One person quoted at me Labour's 6 tests back from 2018 that were their conditions for supporting a deal. They've not been met by this. It's just, I mean, I agree completely with what the Labour front bench has said, that they've pulled this in a kind of rabbit out of a hat way at the last minute, so there's no time for scrutiny. All these pages are being rushed through in less than a day, it looks like, on the order paper. And again, what we're voting on hasn't been released. It's called an EU Future Relationship Bill. We've not seen the text of what it is yet. There's going to be no time to consider it, and it looks like there's coronavirus stuff also on the order paper that day. So sort of it's being shoved through, gun to the head stuff, and just I don't want to be rubber stamping it.
Have you been having any conversations with colleagues in the last few days? What sort of number do you think might not follow Keir Starmer's order and either abstain or vote against on your own benches?
I mean, I honestly have no idea. There was a call on Christmas Eve just after the deal was released, which I think details of it got on the web pretty quickly, which kind of shocked me. It was not me who leaked those out. I think the original Article 50 vote, how many rebels were there? I think there was something like 50 at the time, but then a lot of those people have lost their seats since. I've seen 20 being said in the papers over the weekend. I'd say it's more than that.
More than 20 Labour MPs will defy the whip tomorrow.
Well, I mean, again, by abstaining, it's. I don't think it's an extreme position as it's being painted to be, because this deal is going to get through. So I know there are. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not a betting person. I don't know what it's going to be. The number I've seen is 20. I just thought it could be more than that. But look, don't quote me on this. I honestly don't know, because they're all dispersed at the moment. And if you see people, they're a little tile on a screen kind of thing, and they're not unmuting themselves and all that.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I mean, by coming on the radio, I'm afraid you are going to be quoted on that. But anyway, we won't quote you to the letter. What do you say?
You asked me what my first vinyl I bought was. I was all ready for that, actually. I've got a house full of vinyl, 2 decks, loads of...
We'll get to that. Do you mind if I just ask one more question on Brexit first? What do you say to the argument that opposing this agreement or not voting for it makes Labour, no matter what your constituency looks like, it makes Labour look like it hasn't learnt any lessons at all from the 2019 general election? Because if Labour vote against this tomorrow, or Labour MPs try and block it or abstain, it looks like you are giving the proverbial 2 fingers to the electorate who, like it or not, voted for Boris Johnson and voted for his type of Brexit.
I completely understand colleagues who are voting for it. A lot of them will represent red wall seats. And again, we've got to win a whole ton of seats back, like Gloria's one, and a whole load more. So I completely respect and understand their decision. I see the logic in what they're doing. But for me and my electorate, it would be a 2 fingers up to them, because they've put me in the House of Commons. We have 650 individual people that will all have different circumstances. So, I wouldn't be able to look them in the eye. In my second election in 2017, the Green candidate stood down for me, and Greens usually get 1,000 votes. My original majority was 200 odd, on the assurance that I would fight for pro-European values. As I say, I think this is going to be economically damaging, culturally damaging. We're coming out of Erasmus. It's not the deal I would have wanted, but by abstaining, it goes through. I'm not blocking it, because the way that the system works is it's either you're for or against. But, I'm just sort of keeping a bit of a distance from it.
Hi, Rupa.
Hello.
Nice to talk to you this morning.
You. Come back, all is forgiven.
Likewise, although I'm not coming back. Now, you mentioned the Red Wall MPs. Of course, there aren't really any Red Wall MPs left who represent those seats that voted to leave in the Labour Party anymore. Very few, anyway. So actually, lots of existing Labour MPs, they have remained constituencies. And there is an argument that you're making it so much harder for them to follow the whip by coming on the radio and saying, listen, I'm being true to my constituents. I can't vote for it. What do you say to your colleagues who are following the lead given by Keir Starmer because they want to follow the whip, but you're making it more difficult for them to do that?
Well, no, I would completely say they're able to do what they want. Look, we were there for that Theresa May Parliament. Jeremy Corbyn used to often give free votes in this sort of situation with things like Heathrow expansion. People could do what they want. I think it may make sense in individual seats, because then my seat may be gone as well. Do you know what I mean? Labour is a broad church. With any big party, you're going to have people with different... You're not going to have everyone with 100% identical opinion all the time. So I completely respect them. We have kept red wall seats. People like Ian Lavery is still there, Graham Morris. I could reel off a whole list of them. But, we took a big old beating. Brexit was one of the reasons. So, I get that as well. I'm just saying in my individual case, that seat was only kept twice because it was vote Rupa, vote Remain. I was on a ballot paper with Leavers. Theresa May kept coming to Ely in 2017. They thought that this seat was sewn up. But it's by listening to your voters as well that you can build a majority in the way I did.
It's still a divided country, isn't it, Rupa? I think that much we have learned from this conversation. We have to wrap up, but go on. Your first vinyl purchase. What was it?
So it was two on the same day in the bargain bin, 99p each, for two albums, which were Pelican West by Haircut 100, and also there was a whole album of, do you remember Candy Girl by New Edition?
Oh, loved it. Candy Girl, you are my world. That one.
Someone made a whole album of it. I don't think I've much played it since.
You can have a cool badge. I'm awarding you a cool badge, Rupa.
It's so uncool that it's cool, those two.
Yeah. Yet again, no idea. Never heard of it. Rupa Huq, Labour MP for Central Ealing and Acton, thank you so much for joining us this morning.